Hello, you're watching Weather HQ. I'm Paolo del Rosario. This week, we've covered several important topics, including the promoting of sustainable tourism in Boracay, the rise of pneumonia cases across the Philippines, and the trending heat index. Let's start off with my interview with Mr. Gil de los Santos, the president and founder of the Small Players Association of Boracay, as he discusses the role of the association in advancing sustainable tourism on the island.
Association po namin ay naka-focus po ito sa support local na campaign. So sa lahat po ng aspeto ng support local ay doon po naka-focus yung aming mga actions, aming mga desisyon. Ang ibig sabihin po niyan ay yung mga produkto po na showcase namin or binibenta namin ay naka-anchor doon sa Filipino heritage na mga products at saka mga services para mapakilala natin yung ma-showcase natin yung sariling atin sa ating mga turista.
Sir Gil, anong masasabi niyong hidden gem ng Boracay? Kasi sigurado ko may mga specialty products po kayo na siguro kung pag inisip natin Boracay, some people might think of yung calamansi po ninyo, yung mga calamansi products po ninyo. What would you say is yung specialty ng Boracay?
Sa pagkain po ay yun, kagaya po ng nabanggit ninyo, ang calamansi muffin ay isang product na medyo kilala na sa Boracay po nag-umpisa. Pero maliban po doon ay marami pong iba pang mga pagkain na sa ngayon po unti-unti na ino-introduce sa Boracay yung mga lokal na mga aklano na pagkain, especially nung nag-umpisa nagkaroon ng slow food community sa Boracay. Kung alam po ninyo yung movement na yun, ay ino-introduce po natin nire-reintroduce po natin yung mga pagkain lokal para po, especially yung mga ginataan dishes ng aklan. So may mga places na po kung saan ito may experience ng ating mga turista. Yun po yung sa pagkain na side. Sa mga natural naman po na mga features ng isla, of course, meron po tayong iba-ibang beaches. Meron po tayong Puka Beach kung saan ay doon sa dulo ng Boracay sa northern side na kung saan may mga iba-ibang activities na pwedeng gawin, na pwedeng magkayak po doon at pwedeng picnic. At meron din pong yung sa Lapos-Lapos, yun pong parang lately na naging popular, yung parang arc, yung tinatawag nila na kihol na sa Lapos-Lapos po.
Sa may New Coast.
At of course, hindi mawawala yung White Beach ng Boracay. So yung gem naman talaga ng Boracay ay parang wala namang hidden gem kasi parang exposed naman po lahat sa Boracay kung ano yung may experience at may enjoy ng mga turista po sa Boracay.
Opo, it's a good island to explore. Nandun yung Bulabog, Angol, of course yung Secret Beach sa dulo ng yung sa White Beach, and na-mention nga po yung Puka Beach and Mount Luho as well. There's a lot to go to, but at the same time, Sir Gil, I want to ask about a lot of people. Medyo nagiging viral ulit yung Boracay, especially from foreign content creators, and of course may local kayo na community din ng content creators doon. Nakakatulong ba to po yung sa social media presence po ng mga content creators on the island in terms of promoting Boracay as a sustainable place for tourism?
Nakakatulong po yun, sir, pero depende po sa content na pinifeature ng ating mga content creators. Ang observation po kasi namin, kaya lately po ang nagiging turista na dumadating sa Boracay ay yung mga naghahanap ng actually nagiging popular ito na salita lately yung vegetarian, kasi po karamihan ng mga contents na nasi-share sa social media ay yung pinakamurang accommodation, pinakamurang kainan, pinakamurang activities. So, kung yun po yung ina-attract natin na klase ng mga turista, yun din po yung dumadating na mga turista sa Boracay. At kung atin pong matatandaan, ang Boracay po ay na-awardan ng the most luxurious, the leading luxurious destination in Asia. Uh, ay hindi po yun hindi po tayo na-recognize dahil lang sa nang walang katuturan, dahil po ang Boracay ay isang luxury destination naman po talaga, kasi may mga facilities po ang Boracay na accommodate ng mga luxury travelers talaga. So hindi lang po sana yung focus po sana ng marketing sa Boracay ay yung mga side naman po ng mga luxury side naman po ng Boracay to attract luxury travelers.
Now, when we return, we'll be joined by the president of the Private Hospitals Association of the Philippines, Dr. Jose Rene de Grano, to talk about the increase in pneumonia cases and the potential threat of the newly discovered bat coronavirus. Stay tuned.
Your newest source of news and information on cable and free TV, online,
On Trade Talk, joining us this morning.
on mobile.
Simulan na natin ang agenda.
This is BNC. We are everywhere.
And welcome back. You're still watching Weather HQ. I'm Paolo del Rosario. In recent months, we've seen a significant rise in pneumonia cases across the country, raising serious concerns within the health sector. Here's my interview with Dr. Jose Rene de Grano, president of the Private Hospitals Association of the Philippines, to discuss the current pneumonia situation and the healthcare response.
Well, there is a little bit of an increase noted among the hospitals, primarily because of the changes in weather conditions. You know, for the past, I think, 1 or 2 months, a lot of rains. Medyo ang weather natin is not that good, no? So that's why we expect the highly vulnerable parts of the population, like the young ones, and then of course the elderly, to well, usually they're the ones that get this pneumonia thing.
Well, you mentioned it was weather related, and when you take a look at the way that it's being treated, being diagnosed, are there any challenges or significant challenges that hospitals typically face when addressing pneumonia?
Well, of course, right now the private hospitals are ready for that. It depends on the source of the or the cause of the pneumonia. If it's only viral, usually it's only supportive. No? We just give medications for fever, medications for additional, hydration. But then if it's caused by bacterial pneumonia or bacteria and then fungus, and then that's a different case, because we'll have to treat them using antibiotics. And usually these antibiotics cost a lot. Yeah.
You mentioned that a lot of the affected populations or affected patients are typically those are at risk, children who are in certain situations, even the elderly. And for those who are concerned about those more vulnerable people, how can they help prevent the spread of pneumonia for them in particular?
Well, of course, we have pneumonia vaccines. These are available in our country. Usually they are given once a year. But for the elderly, they can give pneumonia vaccines, which are good for the next 5 years. And these are the pneumococcal vaccines. And I think these are quite available in our hospitals.
Well, you mentioned the vaccines. I actually want to talk about the technology involved in treating pneumonia, especially here locally. How in step are we, in your opinion, with regard to how we treat pneumonia in the country compared to the rest of the world?
Well, I think we're up to the rest of the world. As long as we have the proper antibiotics, then we can treat our pneumonias very well. You know, the hospitals are ready. They have all the antibiotics, the medications, the instruments, I mean, the equipment for this pneumonia. And so it's only the availability sometimes of the pneumococcal vaccines. And right now, I think they are available.
So let's talk more about pneumonia, but in a different lens here, because pneumonia actually has made the news as of late, simply
Yes.
because of Pope Francis has been affected with what they call double pneumonia. Now, for those who don't quite understand what that is, could you give us siguro a layman's explanation of what double pneumonia is and why is it so difficult to treat?
Well, you know, the human beings, we have two lungs, you know. So if sometimes usually the pneumonia is affecting only one part of the lung, and then of course, in the case of the Pope, I think both lungs are involved, and so it's double pneumonia. And then of course, it was very hard to treat, you know. Because probably sometimes the bacteria affecting the lungs are already resistant to the antibiotics, and so that's it.
And of course, we're all going to be hoping for his recovery as well.
Yes, of
But let's also focus on something another thing that's made the news here. That personally, it shook me a bit because we're talking about another potential form of coronavirus, which is, I believe, the bat coronavirus that has been found by a Chinese research team that has the potential to be transmitted from animals to humans and uses the same receptor as the COVID-19 virus. When you take a look at that type of news, that type of development, what are your initial reactions? What does it actually mean? And how worried should people be when they read something like that?
Well, of course, it's still not, it's not prevalent yet. I mean, it's not even documented among humans. But then, of course, just because the mode of transmission is very similar to COVID-19, and COVID-19 caused a pandemic worldwide, and so that's the problem, and that we're trying to expect that hopefully it will not be the same as the COVID-19, because that will entail a lot of risk among us. But right now, I think we should just be aware that this wildlife, including bats, may pose a lot of threat to our body. Yeah.
Well, sort of from a hospital perspective, when you hear news like that, and we already experienced a pandemic very recently, in terms of preparedness, has the latest pandemic that we all experienced together changed the way that we prepare moving forward for any other potential outbreaks, or at least in terms of trying to contain any potential outbreaks?
Yes, of course we are, and we are now more prepared than ever, because everybody was they were caught unaware of the COVID virus, But then right now we are already prepared for that, and even probably this new, hopefully it does not come. This new bat virus should, if ever they will come again, or come here and affect the humans, and we should be ready. I think they are already preparing something like a vaccine for that, just in case it happens. Yeah.
Next, we'll bring you the highlights of our interview with DOH ASEC Albert Domingo, who will talk about the implications of the heat index on health and safety, as well as prevention strategies for hand, foot, and mouth disease, as well as dengue fever.
Good evening, I'm Pinky Webb.
The questions.
What did you uncover?
Kita natin yung sa IPO, there was a violation of Section 8 of Republic Act 9511.
The issues.
Is there a problem with that, the present setup of the Syntax?
The reason there's a 5% increase is because of inflation.
We clarify matters.
All these government agencies were actually the lowest. That's why it has to be, I hope that it will be addressed.
Pinky Web is always on point.
Ito po si Father Nono.
Ako po si Father Fiel Pareha.
Ako si Risa Singson Kaupeng.
Kape at pandasal na po tayo. Ito po si Cardinal Chito Tagle.
And welcome back. You're still watching Weather HQ. I'm Paolo del Rosario. Several health concerns are currently on the rise, including heat-related illnesses, hand, foot, and mouth disease, and dengue fever. To shed more light on these issues, here's my interview with Department of Health ASEC, Albert Domingo. Let's watch this.
We have to distinguish between the absolute temperature. When Pag-asa says it's the heat index, it's the feeling on our skin. And yes, the numbers are going high, but to assure our public, there are 4 levels. There is caution, extreme caution, danger, then extreme danger. There are cutoffs. In particular, the effects can be correlated to 3 heat-related illnesses, in Tagalog, sakit ng init. If you reach already extreme caution, we are at more risk of the first one, which is heat cramps, which means your muscles can go cramping because you get dehydrated, you lose electrolytes. And then if you go to danger, you are at risk, we are all at risk now for heat exhaustion or pagkahapo in Tagalog. You might lose consciousness or feel tired. And then the third one, the most extreme, is the extreme danger. Then you can already have what you call heat stroke. Heat stroke, you lose consciousness. You can sometimes get disoriented because you basically are drying up, so to speak.
So, Doc Albert, what are the measures that the DOH is carrying out, to mitigate the health risks associated with such extreme heat conditions?
So first off, there's an information campaign. Along with the initial declaration of Pag-asa, they haven't actually even declared the summer. So officially, it's not yet summer according to Pag-asa, but the heat is already starting to go up.
Okay.
So the information we have to give out to our public, tips like cooling off, going to the shade, avoiding the sun from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., being very mindful of reflected heat, especially here in the city where there's a lot of concrete.
Yeah.
You may be in the shade, but if you're walking alongside EDSA or a big road, the heat coming from the concrete or the asphalt is still puts you at risk of the heat illnesses. And we also have a coordination with local governments to set up cooling stations. This is not a new structure. It can be as simple as coordinating with a local mall. And from our understanding, the malls love this because people are encouraged to go there, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is a form of public service. You should have large open spaces that are well ventilated for those structures, air-conditioned. Some barangays even have, I remember from previous years, they would have synchronized movie shows for their senior citizens.
Okay.
So exactly. So for those who are extremely at risk, especially the aged, the infirm, in areas where not everyone's air conditioning, the barangay hall might be air conditioned, and you could actually have schedules from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. so that they can cool off.
Now, Doc Albert, I want to move on from the heat to another prominent virus that's happening right now that I don't think people are really talking about, the hand, foot, and mouth disease.
Yes.
I know the DOH reported that close to 7,600 cases from January 1 to February 22, just this year. That's 3 times higher than the same period last year. What is the reason why it's going up right now, and how can people spot that?
So hand, foot, and mouth disease is caused by the Coxsackie-A virus. It is a self-limiting disease. It only takes around 7 to 10 days. The fatality rate is very low. In fact, in 2024, there were only, if I'm not mistaken, 2 fatalities. Every life is precious. We don't want people to die. But in public health, having very low fatalities is a good sign to look for. So having said that, what are the symptoms? That's why it's called hand, foot, and mouth disease. There will be small blisters around the hands, feet, and the mouth. and also sometimes at the hind area. So you could have that. You can have fever. Some will have other symptoms, sometimes headache or body ache. But most importantly, it's the rashes that are prominent. And to avoid it, we have to have personal hygiene. Don't come into close contact. Wash your hands frequently, at least 20 seconds. For those who are mostly affected, the young kids, the schools have been suspending face-to-face classes because you simply have to pause physical interaction, allow for the facilities to be decontaminated, cleaned, so to speak, and then you can resume after 1 week.
Yeah, it feels like the classes are being suspended either because of the heat index or because of the hand, foot, and mouth disease. The majority of the cases have been in Metro Manila and have been in Southern Luzon. Has there been any intervention from the DOH to try and mitigate this? I know the fatality rate is not high, and that it's not necessarily a disease that would cause panic, but still, are there any measures from the DOH?
So as we mentioned, we are coordinating with the schools through the Department of Education. We are coordinating with barangays through the Department of Interior and local government. But essentially, to break transmission, it's all about personal hygiene, which means information on what to do is also important. So wash your hands for 20 seconds. It's important. You sing the happy birthday song, right? Of course, don't sing it very slow or very fast. There are different versions. Just sing it for 20 seconds and then you're done. If you can't wash your hands, your mobile or where there's no water or soap, then use your hand sanitizers. That's also equally efficient and equivalent.
You know, I already had hand, foot, and mouth disease, so I know how terrible it is when you have it. Like your hands get super itchy, and you can't sleep talaga. So it's good that you were able to give out these tips to the parents and the schools that are watching us. You know how to prevent the spread of this virus. Now let's talk about the last time you were here. We talked about the dengue cases, right?
Yes.
So as of February 1st, the DOH has reported over 28,000 dengue cases. That's a 40% increase already compared to last year. So what strategies is the Department of Health employing to address this rise in dengue cases?
So earlier this, was it this week or last week? I forget now, but there was a relaunch of the 4 o'clock habit, which we now call alas 4 contra mosquito. It's a very pointed message that at the regular time each day, we have to counter the vector that spreads dengue, and those are the mosquitoes.
Right.
So what do we do? In Tagalog, taob, taktak, tuyo, takip. Sounds like a TikTok song.
Yeah, Papa-English daw para
I really don't know any of those mean.
Okay, so let's explain. So
Thank you so much.
So taob, turn it over, because you're talking of the receptacles where the water can collect. Taob. Tak-tak, this is hard to translate. What is tak-tak?
It sounds like TikTok.
TikTok is when you
Try to get the water off.
when you tap the water, you disturb the water.
Yes, you tap containers.
Yeah.
Tap containers so that the
Tap,
residual water will tap. So it's tak-tak, not tap-tap. But for now, it might be tap-tap. So taob, tak-tak, tuyo, takip first. Tuyo, okay, tuyo is to dry.
To dry, yeah.
And then takip is to cover. Because sometimes, especially we're heading into the hot season, people will say, okay, the rains are abating, so therefore we will have no longer dengue problems hanging around. But the thing is, during the dry season, people collect water.
Yeah.
So be sure to please cover whatever pails, whatever receptacles you have, so that mosquitoes will not lay eggs into those stores of water.
All right, do you understand, Mo?
I know, I appreciate it. Thank you, Doc Albert, for having to translate that. This is probably the first time you had to do it on air.
Yeah, of course, we are mentioning or monitoring the numbers here. And again, this is a bit off-season, yung dengue. Has the rate of increase slowed as the information dissemination campaign has started at the early part of the year?
So it's Thursday today. Anytime today or tomorrow, the update for the latest data will come in. But as of February 22, we did register a 7% decrease on a week-by-week basis.
Yeah.
We're hoping to keep the trend that way.
Okay.
And to keep that trend that way, we have to keep reminding our citizens, our kababayans, that we don't just do this just because there's an alert or just because it's in the news, and then we forget it after there's a new disease that comes our way. So keep doing it. Alas 4 contra mosquito, taob, tak-tak, tuyo, takip.
All right.
Thank you, Doc. I got all of that.
Yeah.
You know,
We're gonna have a quiz later, Mo. Okay? If you could explain it all.
Wait, before we let Doc Albert go, I have this question that I wanted to ask the last time he was here. Because yung mga lola natin, di ba, our mga tita, lola, they would say the dengue mosquitoes, they come out daw in the morning and sa late afternoon.
Dusk and dawn,
Is this true?
Yes, yes. So that's a good question. There are, shall I say, 4 kinds of mosquitoes going around. There's your Aedes, there are 2, Aedes aegypti, Aedes albopictus. They are the ones that carry dengue.
Okay.
And they do bite around 6 to 9 in the morning and 3 to 6 in the afternoon.
So, totoo nga. There's
Para silang color coding.
Oh,
Meron silang oras.
Crazy.
And I've always wondered, so what do they do in between?
They're sleeping.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Nap sila.
Off duty sila.
Hindi sila nagtatago sa ayaw mahuli ng coding.
I don't even know if that's a valid question, but I really wondered, like, okay, so if this is their schedule of biting, what happens? Like,
So wait, let me
between?
continue. There are 2 other kinds of mosquitoes. The Culex mosquito, they don't have much diseases, but there's another one, the what they call this, the Anopheles mosquito. That
Okay.
one brings malaria. So it's not everywhere. It's only in particular areas of the country, and they bite at night. Oh, may schedule rin sila. Nocturnal sila.
Okay. You get
Night
that at
duty.
night.
So don't go about timing like what time is it? I have malaria because it's it's not like that. Just wear long sleeves and this is the challenge. It's getting hot now, so you can still wear long sleeves. Just make sure that the clothes are light.
Yeah.
Yes,
Wag naman yung jacket na sobrang kapal. So make sure it's like a light, breathable, and the
fabric.
colors should be light colored.
Okay.
Because dark colors like what Paolo is wearing now will attract mosquitoes.
Wait, maghubad na ako
Hold on.
Take it off.
Pero of course, when we're talking about all of that, you mentioned it a while ago, so may konting schedule. Pero when you see them, syempre, walang no contact apprehension. Apprehend mo talaga. But, what advice do you have for those now knowing that may schedule sila? Does that affect the way that we have to really fix the environment and of course
a follow-up question to what Paolo's saying is just like the mosquito repellent, like the normal one. Is that okay with all variants?
Yes, that's okay with all the 4 species of mosquito. And the practical question from Paolo, if you're using Katol or the electric mosquito repellents, remember those are consumables. So you might want to plug them in or light them up around those times. Because if you light up or you plug in around 11 a.m., that's not the usual time when these mosquitoes bite.
Okay.
So you want, and you're going to run out of Katol, run out of the electric repellent. So make sure that you, and even the lotions, by the way, they're not forever. Wala talagang forever. May hubad. So the
Join us for love hacks.
Yes. So the lotions have to be applied around those times so that you can maximize their effect.
And that wraps up Weather HQ for this week. Join us again next week, only here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel. I'm Paolo del Rosario. Have a great weekend.